The stars were dying, and the Valanis people could do nothing but watch. Hana stood in the observation deck of the council station, her 3 hearts beating in rhythm with her fear. Beyond the transparent walls, space looked peaceful. The distant suns glowed softly. Ships moved between planets like silver fish in a cosmic ocean. Everything looked normal. But Hana knew the truth. Death was coming, and it was already closer than anyone wanted to admit. She had been an ambassador for 20 years. She had solved disputes between colonies. She had negotiated trade agreements that benefited 7 different species. She had always found peaceful solutions to every problem. But this problem had no peaceful solution. The Dravik did not talk. They did not listen. They only consumed. 3 months ago, the colony on Velas 6 had gone silent. The council thought it was a technical failure. They sent repair ships. Those ships found nothing but empty buildings and streets covered in strange crystal formations. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just emptiness and those horrible crystals that seemed to pulse with inner light. 2 months ago, Velas 8 fell, then Velas 3, then 2 more colonies in quick succession. The pattern became clear. Something was eating the Valanis coalition from the inside out, moving from world to world like a disease. The first survivors arrived last month. They came in damaged ships, babbling about creatures made of living crystal. They described swarms that fell from the sky like rain. They talked about people being absorbed into the crystal structures. Their screams cut short as their bodies became part of the alien mass. The survivors had nightmares. They could not sleep without seeing those crystalline predators in their minds. The council called them the Dravik, an old word from Valanis mythology meaning those who devour. The name fit. The Dravik consumed everything organic. They broke down biological matter and used it to create more of themselves. They grew exponentially. 1 Dravik crystal could become 1,000 in days if it had enough food. And entire planets were excellent food sources. Hana's people tried to fight. Their defense fleet was small and designed for protecting trade routes from pirates, not fighting an invasion. The ships had light weapons. The crews had minimal combat training. War was something the Valanis had abandoned centuries ago. They believed in peace and diplomacy, in using words instead of weapons. The Dravik taught them how foolish that belief was. The defense fleet engaged the Dravik swarm at Velas 2. Hana watched the battle recordings dozens of times, trying to understand what went wrong. The Valanis ships fired their weapons. The energy beam struck the Dravik vessels and did nothing. The crystals absorbed the energy and grew stronger. When the Valanis ships tried to retreat, the Dravik swarmed them. The crystal creatures covered the hulls like insects, breaking through the metal, pouring inside. The screams on the communication channels lasted for 17 minutes. Then silence. The council met in emergency session. Scientists proposed solutions. Build better weapons. Develop new shields. Create biological weapons that could target the Dravik's crystal structure. But every solution needed time, and time was the one thing the Valanis did not have. The Dravik moved faster than anyone anticipated. At their current rate of expansion, they would reach Valanis Prime in 6 weeks. Maybe less. That was when someone remembered the beacon. The precursors were the first intelligent species in the galaxy, or so the legends said. They had left behind artifacts on 100 worlds. Most were incomprehensible. Some were dangerous. A few were useful. The beacon was one of the useful ones, stored in a vault beneath the council chambers. The ancient device could send messages across impossible distances, through dimensions that normal physics could not touch. The council debated for 3 days. Using precursor technology was risky. No one fully understood how it worked. But desperation made people willing to take risks they would normally refuse. On the 3rd day they voted. The beacon would be activated. A distress call would be sent to anyone who might hear it. Hana helped write the message. She chose every word carefully. "We are the Valanis Coalition," the message began. "We are a peaceful people facing extinction. An enemy we cannot defeat is destroying our worlds. We beg anyone who receives this message to help us. Send your warriors. Send your protectors. Send us angels to save us from the darkness." The beacon activated at dawn. The device hummed with power that made Hana's skin prickle. Light erupted from it in colors that had no names. The message flew outward, touching every corner of the galaxy, reaching into spaces between spaces. Then they waited. Days passed. The Dravek continued their advance. Another colony fell. The refugees flooded into the remaining safe worlds, bringing their fear and desperation with them. The council tried to maintain order, but panic spread like fire. Some people demanded to flee the coalition entirely. Others insisted on fighting to the last. A few simply gave up, accepting death as inevitable. Hana worked without sleeping. She helped organize the refugees. She tried to keep hope alive even as her own hope died. At night, she looked at the stars and wondered if anyone had heard their call. Maybe the galaxy was empty of anyone who cared. Maybe they would die alone, forgotten, consumed by crystal monsters that felt nothing. On the 9th day after the beacon's activation, the answer came. The communication arrived during a council session. The room fell silent as the message played. The language was strange, harsh, and angular. The translation computer struggled with it before producing understandable text on the displays. Message received. We understand your situation. Help is coming. Prepare yourselves. This is humanity responding from Earth. Hana felt her heart skip. Earth. She searched the database. The planet was located in a region of space marked with warnings. The star charts labeled it as forbidden territory. No one went there. The few ships that had tried to make contact had never returned. Every species that knew about Earth agreed on one thing: stay away. The council erupted in argument. Some members wanted to refuse the help. Earth was dangerous. The humans were dangerous. Old reports described them as violent, unpredictable, and frighteningly intelligent. One ambassador called them the mad apes from the death world. Another insisted that accepting human help would be worse than facing the Dravek. But Councillor Mireille, the oldest member of the council, raised her hand for silence. Her voice was quiet but firm. We asked for help. Someone answered. We do not have the luxury of choosing our saviors. If these humans can stop the Dravek, then we will accept whatever price they demand. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Hana was chosen as the ambassador to meet with the humans. She accepted the duty with fear in her heart. She would greet Earth's warriors, whoever and whatever they were. She did not know it yet, but she had just made the most important decision in Volanis history. The angels they had prayed for were not coming. Something else was coming instead. Something the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. The monsters were coming, and they were coming to help. The human fleet arrived like a storm made of metal and fire. Hana watched from the observation deck as space itself seemed to tear open. 51 vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel, appearing in Volanis space with mathematical precision. They were not like any ships Hana had ever seen. Volanis vessels were elegant with smooth curves and artistic designs. These human ships looked brutal. They were covered in thick armor plates. Weapons bristled from every surface. There was no beauty in them, only function and deadly purpose. The lead ship identified itself as the Relentless. The name fit. The vessel was massive, nearly twice the size of the largest Volanis cruiser. Its hull was dark gray, scarred from what must have been countless battles. Lights along its surface glowed red, making it look like something alive and angry. Captain Kwan's message came through moments after arrival. His voice was deep and steady, speaking through a translator that made his words sound flat and emotionless. This is Captain Kwan of Earth Defense Force. We have received your distress call. Send your representative. We will discuss the situation. Hana took a shuttle to the Relentless. As her small craft approached, she could see the weapons tracking her movement. Every gun followed her shuttle like predators watching prey. The shuttle bay doors opened and she flew into darkness. The interior of the ship was wrong in every way. The lighting was dim and red, designed for human eyes that apparently preferred shadows. The air was hot and tasted of metal and chemicals. The walls were bare metal reinforced with thick beams. There was no decoration, no art, no attempt to make the space comfortable. It was purely functional, built to survive damage and keep fighting. 2 humans met her at the landing platform. They wore armor that covered them completely, black and angular with glowing panels. They carried weapons that looked too large for their frames. They did not speak. They simply gestured for her to follow. Hana walked through corridors that felt like the inside of a weapon. She passed rooms filled with machinery she could not identify. She saw humans working at stations, their faces hard and focused. They glanced at her but showed no emotion. No curiosity, no welcome. They looked at her the way someone might look at a tool or a piece of equipment. The war room was deep inside the ship. The doors opened with a heavy sound, and Hana entered a space dominated by tactical displays and strategic maps. 5 humans stood around a central table that showed a hologram of the Villanis coalition and the spreading Dravik infection. Captain Quan stood at the head of the table. He was tall for a human, his face marked with scars that told stories of violence. His eyes were dark and calculating. When he looked at Hana, she felt like he was seeing through her, measuring her worth in seconds. "Ambassador Hana," Quan said. His translator made his voice sound almost mechanical. "I am Captain Quan. This is Tactical Officer Tae, Weapons Specialist Yuna, Engineering Officer Hyun, and Marine Commander Dai." He gestured to each person in turn. Hana looked at them and felt her fear grow. These were not diplomats. These were warriors. Tae was thin and sharp-eyed, watching the tactical displays with intense focus. Yuna was smaller but radiated controlled violence, her hands never far from her weapons. Hyun seemed calmer but had the look of someone who could build or destroy with equal ease. Dai was broad and scarred, his face showing the results of direct combat. "Thank you for coming," Hana said, trying to maintain diplomatic composure. "We are grateful for your response to our distress call." "Show me the enemy," Quan said, ignoring her thanks. There was no small talk, no pleasantries. Just direct demands for information. Hana activated her datapad and transmitted the files to the human systems. The displays around the room filled with images and videos of the Dravik attacks. She showed them the consumed colonies, the crystal formations, the speed of Dravik reproduction, the failed defense fleet engagement. All the horror her people had experienced. The humans watched in silence. Hana expected shock or sympathy or at least some emotional reaction. Instead, they studied the images like scientists examining interesting specimens. Yuna made notes on a datapad. Tae zoomed in on specific battle footage, analyzing attack patterns. Day counted casualties with cold efficiency. "Reproduction rate?" Tae asked. "One crystal unit can become approximately 1,000 in 72 hours if given sufficient organic matter," Hana replied. "Energy absorption capabilities?" Yuna asked. "They can absorb directed energy weapons and convert the power into accelerated growth," Hana said. "Hive intelligence or individual?" Quan asked. "We believe hive intelligence with distributed processing. Destroying individual units has no significant impact on the swarm," Hana answered. The humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. Then Quan nodded slowly. "This is manageable," he said simply. "Manageable." Hana's translator must have made an error. "I apologize, but I think the translation was incorrect." "Did you say manageable?" "Yes," Quan replied. "We have dealt with worse." Hana could not believe what she was hearing. "These creatures have destroyed 5 of our worlds. They have killed billions. Our entire defense fleet was eliminated in minutes. How can you say you have seen worse?" Yuna spoke for the first time. Her voice was cold and precise. "Earth has faced 12 extinction-level events in the last 400 years. 3 were biological, 4 were technological, 5 were from hostile contact with other species. We survived all of them. Your Dravik are dangerous, but they are not unstoppable." "You don't understand," Hana said desperately. "We cannot fight them. Our weapons don't work. Our ships cannot compete. We have no military tradition. We are a peaceful people." "That's obvious," Day said bluntly. "Your ships are built for science and trade. Your weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Your entire civilization is optimized for peace." He paused. "That's why you called us." Hana felt heat rise in her face. "We called for help. We called for protectors. We called for angels to save us." The humans looked at each other again. This time Tae laughed. It was a harsh sound, bitter and dark. The others did not join him, but Hana saw something like amusement in their eyes. "Angels," Quan repeated slowly. "Ambassador, I think you misunderstand what we are." "You are warriors from Earth," Hana said. "You are our saviors." "No," Quan said firmly. "We are what Earth sends when angels are not enough. We are what 400 years of survival created. You wanted protectors, and we will protect you. But you need to understand something important." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "We don't have rules of engagement. We don't have ethical guidelines for combat. We don't fight fair. We fight to win, and we use whatever methods achieve victory." "But you will save us?" Hana asked, her voice small. "Yes," Quan said. "We will eliminate the Dravik threat. But when this is over, you need to ask yourself an important question, Ambassador. What question? Quan's expression was unreadable. Whether you saved your people by calling us or whether you just replaced one monster with another. Hana felt cold despite the heat of the ship. She looked at the 5 humans standing around the tactical display, studying the Dravek invasion with the focus of predators planning a hunt. These were not the saviors she had imagined. These were not gentle protectors. These were something else entirely. We begin immediately, Quan said, turning back to the displays. Tay, I want full tactical analysis within 6 hours. Yuna, start weapons development. Hyun, assess our resource needs. Day, prepare the Marines for ground deployment. We have work to do. The humans moved with immediate efficiency, each one focused on their assigned tasks. No one looked at Hana anymore. She was irrelevant now. The humans had a problem to solve, and they were already solving it. Hana stood alone in the war room, surrounded by images of death and destruction, and wondered what she had unleashed on the galaxy. She had prayed for angels. Instead, she had summoned monsters, and the monsters were going to war. The humans did not attack. For 2 weeks, they did nothing that made sense to Hana. Instead of defending the remaining Villainous worlds, the human fleet spread out across the system in strange patterns. Small teams launched from the ships in vessels barely large enough for a crew. These teams flew toward the Dravek-infected planets, the very places the Villainous fleet had refused to approach after the massacre. Hana watched the operations from the council station, trying to understand the human strategy. It looked like suicide. Those small ships had minimal weapons and light armor. They carried only a handful of soldiers each. What could they possibly accomplish against entire planets covered in Dravek swarms? She requested another meeting with Captain Quan. He granted it, but only through video communication. He was busy, he explained. Too busy to meet in person. On the screen, Hana could see the war room behind him, filled with humans working at incredible speed. Captain, I don't understand your strategy, Hana said carefully. The Dravek are advancing. 2 more colonies have gone silent. Why are you not defending our worlds? Because defense is not how you win wars, Ambassador, Quan replied without looking away from his displays. Defense is how you survive while planning your attack. But your teams are entering Dravek territory, Hana protested. They will be killed. Some will, Quan agreed calmly. That is acceptable. Hana felt sick. Acceptable? How can you say that so easily? Those are your people. For the first time, Quan looked directly at the camera. His expression was hard but not cruel. Those soldiers volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. They are professionals. They understand that war requires sacrifice. We honor them by using their sacrifice effectively, not by pretending death is avoidable. A junior officer approached Quan and handed him a data pad. He reviewed it quickly and nodded. Ambassador, I need to end this call. Science Officer Sue will brief you on our findings. She can explain better than I can. The screen went dark. An hour later, Sue arrived at the council station. She was younger than the other humans Hana had met, with an excited energy that seemed strange coming from Earth's warriors. She carried a portable display unit and set it up in the council's main briefing room. Ambassador Hana, Sue said with what might have been a smile. Her translator made it hard to tell. I'm here to show you what we've learned about the Dravek. It's actually fascinating from a biological standpoint. Fascinating was not the word Hana would have chosen. Terrifying seemed more appropriate. Sue activated the display, showing detailed scans of Dravek crystal structures. The Dravek are not actually alive in the traditional sense. They're a hybrid between biological and crystalline matter. The crystal lattice stores energy and information, while the biological components process nutrients and reproduce. It's an elegant system, really. Elegant, Hana repeated weakly. Oh yes, Sue continued, missing or ignoring Hana's tone. They're perfectly adapted for consumption and reproduction. Almost impossible to kill with conventional weapons. Energy absorption, rapid healing, distributed intelligence. From an evolutionary perspective, they're apex predators. If they're so perfect, how can you possibly stop them? Hana asked. Sue's expression changed. The excitement remained, but something colder entered her eyes. Because we're from Earth, Ambassador. Do you know what Earth is? A planet in forbidden space, Hana replied. Earth is a death world, Sue said flatly. Everything on our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Diseases, predators, weather, other humans. We survived because we learned one critical lesson. She leaned forward. Nothing is perfect. Everything has a weakness. You just have to find it and exploit it without mercy. Sue changed the display to show complex wave patterns. The Dravek's crystal structure resonates at a specific harmonic frequency. If you hit that frequency with enough power, the crystals shatter at a molecular level. The biological components die immediately. The entire structure collapses. That's incredible, Hannah said. But our weapons cannot generate that kind of power. No, Sue agreed. Your weapons can't, but we're not using weapons. We're using your sun. Hannah stared at her. What? Over the next hour, Sue explained the human plan in detail. They were building something called the Stellar Array, a network of satellites that would orbit Valanus Prime's sun. These satellites would siphon energy directly from the star and focus it into a single beam capable of crossing star systems. When fired, the beam would carry the exact harmonic frequency needed to destroy the Dravek. You're weaponizing our sun, Hannah said, horror filling her voice. Technically, we're borrowing a small fraction of its energy output. Sue corrected. The star won't be damaged, probably. Probably. Sue shrugged, a very human gesture. There's a 3% chance the energy drain could destabilize the star's fusion cycle. But there's a 100% chance the Dravek will kill you all if we do nothing. I know which odds I prefer. Hannah brought this information to the council. The response was immediate and furious. Half the council wanted to order the humans to stop. The other half argued they had no way to stop the humans even if they tried. The debate raged for hours. Councillor Mireille finally ended the argument. We asked for help. We are receiving help. We do not get to choose the methods of our salvation. She looked around the room at her fellow councillors. The humans are doing what we cannot do. They are fighting while we debate. I suggest we let them finish what they started. While the council argued, the human teams continued their work. Hannah received reports from the reconnaissance missions. The news was grim. Of the 40 teams sent into Dravek territory, only 23 returned. The others were listed as lost. The humans noted these losses in their reports with the same emotion someone might use to record equipment failures. But the returning teams brought valuable data. They had samples of Dravek tissue, detailed scans of hive structures, information about Dravek behavior patterns and reproduction cycles. They had even located the primary hive world, the source of the invasion. Marine Commander Day used this information to plan the ground assault. He explained his strategy to Hannah with clinical precision. Special Forces teams would infiltrate the hive world. They would plant nuclear charges at key points in the crystal structure. When the stellar array fired, these charges would detonate simultaneously, maximizing damage and ensuring complete destruction of the hive. This is a suicide mission, Hannah said after hearing the plan. Yes, Day agreed simply. And your soldiers will do this willingly? They already volunteered, Day replied. We had more volunteers than positions available. We had to turn people away. Hannah could not comprehend this. Why would anyone volunteer for certain death? Day was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something Hannah had not heard from the humans before. Not emotion exactly, but perhaps the shadow of it. Because we understand what it means to be the last line of defense. Because we know that our deaths will save billions. Because humanity learned a long time ago that some things are worth dying for. He pulled up an image on his display. It showed Earth, a beautiful blue and green world. 400 years ago, we almost died as a species. We were killing ourselves with pollution, war, disease. We called out to the galaxy for help. No one came. We had to save ourselves. And we learned that if we were going to survive, we had to become the kind of species that could do the impossible. Day closed the image. Your people built a civilization on peace and cooperation. That's beautiful. That's worth preserving. But peace only exists because someone is willing to fight for it. That's what we are, Ambassador. We are the ones who fight so others don't have to. The stellar array took 12 days to construct. Engineering Officer Hyun worked without sleeping, coordinating the construction teams. The satellites were massive, each one the size of a small ship. They positioned themselves in perfect formation around Valanus Prime's sun, connected by energy beams that made space shimmer like heat waves. On the 13th day, Jin led his Special Forces team toward the hive world. There were 20 soldiers in total. They knew they would not return. They went anyway. Hannah watched the launch from the observation deck. The small ship carrying Jin's team disappeared into faster-than-light travel, heading toward certain death. She wanted to pray for them, but she did not know what to pray for. Success, a quick death? Forgiveness for bringing such violent saviors to her people? Captain Kwan joined her at the window. He stood silently watching the stars. Do you ever regret it? Hana asked quietly. Being what you are? Kwan considered the question. Every day, he finally said. But regret doesn't change necessity. The galaxy needed monsters, so we became monsters. It's that simple. It's not simple at all, Hana replied. No, Kwan agreed, but it's necessary, and that's all that matters. The countdown to the assault had begun. The monsters were ready. Soon the galaxy would see what humanity could do when pushed to action. The attack began at dawn, Vilanis prime time. Hana stood in the observation deck with the full council, watching the displays that showed every angle of the battle. The humans had given them access to their tactical network. They could see everything. Hana wondered if this was kindness or cruelty, forcing them to witness the violence being done in their name. The stellar array activated first. The satellites around the sun began to glow, pulling energy from the star's surface. The light grew brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at the displays. Then, in perfect synchronization, the satellites focused all that stolen sunlight into a single beam. The beam crossed the void of space in seconds. It struck the hive world with the force of a concentrated star. The Dravek crystals began to vibrate. The harmonic frequency tore through their molecular structure. On the surface of the planet, billions of crystal formations shattered simultaneously, exploding into dust that glittered in the starlight. But the beam was only the beginning. Jin's team had reached their positions deep inside the planet's crust. The nuclear charges they had planted activated in sequence, creating a chain reaction that collapsed the hive world's structural integrity. The planet began to break apart from the inside, massive fractures spreading across its surface like lightning. Jin's final transmission came through the communication network. His voice was calm despite the world ending around him. Target destroyed! All charges detonated successfully. It was an honor to serve. Then static 20 soldiers died in that moment. The humans in the war room noted the losses in their records. No one spoke. No one paused. The battle was not over. While the hive world died, the human fleet moved into position around the remaining Dravek-occupied colonies. 50 warships, each one a weapon designed for destruction. Captain Kwan commanded from the Relentless, his orders precise and emotionless. All ships begin atmospheric assault. Target any Dravek concentrations. Weapons free. No survivors. The Vilanis people on the observation deck gasped as the human fleet opened fire. This was not the clean, precise warfare they had imagined. This was brutality on a scale they could not comprehend. The human ships used weapons the Vilanis had never seen. Plasma bombs that burned hot enough to turn sand into glass. Kinetic projectiles that struck with the force of meteors. Chemical weapons that dissolved organic matter on contact. Each weapon was designed for maximum destruction, maximum efficiency. On the colony world of Velis 4, Marine Commander Day led the ground assault. His forces dropped from orbit in armored pods that crashed through Dravek structures like meteors. The Marines emerged wearing powered armor, carrying weapons that made the Vilanis Defense Forces equipment look like children's toys. Hana watched through drone cameras as Day's team moved through a Dravek hive. The Marines used flamethrowers that sprayed fire hot enough to crack crystal. They threw grenades that released electromagnetic pulses, disrupting the Dravek's energy absorption. When the crystals tried to reform, the Marines shattered them with explosive rounds and moved forward without hesitation. It was not a battle. It was extermination. The Marines showed no mercy because the Dravek could not surrender. They showed no hesitation because hesitation meant death. They moved through the hive with mechanical efficiency, clearing room after room, killing everything they found. Weapons specialist Yuna coordinated the orbital bombardment, targeting Dravek concentrations that the ground teams could not reach. Her calculations were perfect. Each strike eliminated thousands of Dravek units with minimal collateral damage to the colony infrastructure. She worked with the same focus someone might use for a mathematics problem, reducing mass murder to simple equations. In space, Tactical Officer Tay commanded the fleet's engagement with Dravek vessels. The crystal ships were fast and numerous, but Tay had studied their patterns. He predicted their movements and laid traps. Human ships herded the Dravek into kill zones where overlapping fields of fire could destroy them efficiently. When Dravek ships tried to flee, electromagnetic mines disabled their propulsion. When they tried to absorb energy from human weapons, the humans switched to kinetic rounds that shattered them physically. When they tried to swarm a human vessel, point defense systems cut them down like wheat before a scythe. It was not elegant. It was not heroic. It was simply effective. Pilot Han led a squadron of fighters in atmospheric combat on Vela 7. His team flew low over the surface, dropping payloads of thermite that ignited at temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees. Entire Dravek colonies burned, the crystals melting into pools of liquid mineral that cooled into harmless slag. Han's voice came through the communication network, calm and professional. Sector 7 cleared. Moving to Sector 8. No resistance remaining, no resistance remaining. The words echoed in Hana's mind. The Dravek had seemed unstoppable. They had destroyed the Volani's defense fleet. They had consumed 5 entire worlds. And now the humans were eliminating them like insects, methodically clearing sector after sector without pause. The battle lasted 72 hours. The humans did not rest. They rotated shifts, some teams sleeping while others fought, maintaining constant pressure on the Dravek positions. They ate field rations while moving. They treated injuries without leaving the battlefield. They were machines of war, efficient and relentless. On the third day, the last Dravek stronghold fell. Day's Marines cleared the final hive, planting explosive charges that collapsed the structure completely. The detonation was visible from orbit, a mushroom cloud rising into the atmosphere. Day's report was simple. Velas 4 secured, all Dravek eliminated, beginning cleanup operations, as if they had not just killed billions of creatures, as if this was just another day's work. The human fleet regrouped in orbit around Volanus Prime. The tactical displays showed the results. 18 human ships damaged, 4 destroyed completely, 4,000 human soldiers dead, but the Dravek were gone. Every single crystal, every single ship, every trace of the invasion eliminated. The Volanus Council sat in stunned silence. They had witnessed something they could not fully process. The humans had done in 3 days what the Volanis could not do in 3 months. They had eliminated an extinction-level threat with cold efficiency. Counselor Mirai spoke first, her voice quiet. "They saved us. They destroyed everything," another counselor whispered. "Did you see the weapons they used? The casualties they inflicted?" "The Dravek casualties," Mirai corrected. "Not ours. They saved our worlds. They saved our people. At what cost?" A third counselor asked. 4,000 humans dead. They sacrificed so many. And they consider it an acceptable price, Hana said softly. She had been watching the human casualty reports. Each death was noted with the same brief notation. Name, rank, cause of death. No eulogies. No mourning. Just records and moving forward. Captain Kwan's face appeared on the main display. He looked tired, the first sign of weakness Hana had seen from him. But his voice was still steady. Volanus Council, the Dravek threat has been eliminated. All infected worlds have been cleared. Your space is secure. Captain Kwan, Mirai said, We don't have words to thank you adequately. Thanks are not necessary, Kwan replied. We came to eliminate a threat. The threat is eliminated. That is sufficient. You lost 4,000 people, Hana said. How can you speak of them so casually? Kwan's expression shifted slightly. We do not speak of them casually, Ambassador. We honor them by completing the mission they died for. They knew the risks. They accepted them. They would want us to finish the job, not waste time grieving. We will mourn them properly when we return to Earth. You're leaving? Mirai asked. Our work here is done, Kwan said. We will leave behind technical data to help you rebuild your defense systems. Science Officer Su has volunteered to remain as a liaison officer to assist in training your forces. But the fleet will depart within 48 hours. The screen went dark. The council sat in silence, processing everything they had witnessed. Hana felt strange. They were saved. The Dravek were gone. Their civilization would survive. But the victory felt hollow somehow. They had been saved by creatures who fought with such cold efficiency that death was just another number in a report. Outside the windows, the human fleet was already preparing to leave. Ships were being repaired. Supplies were being organized. The humans were moving on to whatever came next, treating the salvation of an entire civilization as just another completed mission. Hana wondered what Captain Quan had said during their first meeting. Whether they had saved the Villanis by calling the humans, or whether they had simply replaced one monster with another. Looking at the human fleet, at the weapons that had eliminated the Dravek so efficiently, Hana thought she might finally understand. The humans were not monsters. They were something far more frightening. They were the solution to monsters, and solutions by their very nature could not afford to be gentle. The victory celebration on Villanis Prime felt more like a funeral. The streets were filled with people grateful to be alive. Refugees from the threatened colonies returned to their homes. Children played in parks that had been prepared for evacuation just days before. The Dravek were gone. Life could continue. Yet the joy felt forced, artificial, like everyone was trying to convince themselves they had won. Hana walked through the capital city, watching her people celebrate. They cheered. They sang traditional songs of thanksgiving, but she could see the fear in their eyes. They had been saved, yes, but they had seen what salvation looked like. They had watched their saviors wage war with such brutal efficiency that it revealed something uncomfortable about the universe. Peace, they had learned, was not the natural state of things. Peace was a luxury maintained by the willingness of others to commit violence on your behalf. The human fleet prepared to depart from orbit. Most of the ships had already left, returning to Earth or to whatever other missions awaited them. Only a few remained for final debriefing and technology transfer. The Relentless was among them, Captain Quan still present for the formal diplomatic closure. Hana requested one final meeting. She needed to understand. She needed answers to questions that had haunted her since the humans first arrived. She took a shuttle to the Relentless, for the last time. The ship seemed different now. Less threatening somehow, though nothing about it had physically changed. Perhaps she had simply grown accustomed to the harsh lighting and brutal functionality. Or perhaps she had changed instead. Captain Quan met her in the same war room where they had first spoken. He looked older now, worn down by the battle and its costs. The tactical displays were dark. The war was over. Ambassador Hana, Quan said. What can I do for you? Hana sat down without being invited. A small rebellion, perhaps. I need to understand something, Captain. Why did you really come? You could have ignored our distress call. The galaxy is full of suffering. Why did you choose to help us? Quan was silent for a long moment. He walked to the window looking out at Villanis Prime below. The planet glowed blue and green, untouched by the Dravek thanks to human intervention. Do you know Earth's history, Ambassador? Quan asked finally. Only what is in the public records, Hana admitted. A death world, a violent species, a region of space to avoid? Quan nodded slowly. 400 years ago, Earth was dying. We had poisoned our atmosphere with industrial waste. We had depleted our resources through endless wars. New diseases emerged faster than we could cure them. Our population was crashing. We were facing extinction. He turned to face her. We activated an old precursor communications device just like you did. We sent a distress call to every species we could reach. We begged for help, medical technology, environmental assistance, just someone to acknowledge that we existed and were worth saving. And no one came, Hana said softly. No one came, Quan confirmed. We received exactly 3 responses. 2 said we were too far away. 1 said we were too violent to be worth saving. Then silence. We were alone. He pulled up an image on the display. Earth, but not the beautiful planet Hana had seen in other records. This Earth was covered in brown clouds. The oceans were dark with pollution. Cities glowed like infected wounds. We had 2 choices, Quan continued. Die alone and forgotten or save ourselves. We chose to survive. We forced ourselves to change. We cleaned our planet one city at a time. We ended our wars not through peace treaties, but through exhaustion and necessity. We cured our diseases through brutal triage and genetic modification. We did whatever it took to survive. The image changed, showing Earth as it appeared now, clean, blue, beautiful. It took us 200 years to restore our world, Quan said. In that time, we learned something important. We learned that we could not rely on anyone but ourselves. We learned that mercy from strangers is a myth. We learned that if we were going to exist in a galaxy full of other species, we needed to become something that could never be ignored or abandoned again. So you became weapons, Hana said. We became survivors, Quan corrected. We developed the technology to defend ourselves. We built ships that could fight. We trained soldiers who could win wars. We made ourselves into something the galaxy would have to acknowledge. He sat down across from Hana. Then we heard your distress call, another species begging for help that would probably never come, and we had to make a choice. Would we become like those who ignored us? Would we let another civilization die alone? And you chose to help, Hana said. We chose to be better than those who abandoned us, Quan said. We chose to ensure that no one else would suffer like we suffered, even if it meant becoming something frightening. Even if it meant using methods that make peaceful species uncomfortable. Hana felt tears forming. Her species did not cry easily, but the emotion overwhelmed her. Thank you, she whispered, for coming, for saving us, for being willing to be monsters so we could remain gentle. Quan's expression softened slightly. We're not monsters, Ambassador. We're just practical. The universe doesn't care about your intentions or your philosophies. It only cares about results. The Dravek would have killed you all. We stopped them. That's all that matters, is it? Hana asked. My people are terrified of you now. They're grateful, yes, but they're also afraid. They look at your weapons and your soldiers and they see something inhuman. Good, Quan said bluntly. They should be afraid. Not of us specifically, but of the reality we represent. The universe is not safe. Peace is not guaranteed. Your people built a beautiful civilization on cooperation and trust, and that's admirable. But you forgot to prepare for the things that don't cooperate. You forgot that beauty needs protection. He stood and walked to a console, pulling up files. Before we leave, we're transferring complete technical data for defensive systems. Ship designs, weapon specifications, training protocols, everything you need to defend yourselves. You're giving us weapons, Hana said. We're giving you options, Quan replied. What you do with them is your choice. Maybe you'll never need them. Maybe the galaxy will remain peaceful for the next 1,000 years. But if another threat appears, you won't have to call for help. You'll be able to protect yourselves. And if we use these weapons wrong? Hana asked. If we become like the Dravek or worse. Quan smiled then, a cold expression without humor. Then we'll come back. And we'll stop you. That's the other thing we've become, Ambassador. We're the balance. We protect those who need protection. And we eliminate threats that need eliminating. Pray you never need us to do the second one. Science Officer Sue entered the room, carrying equipment cases. She looked excited, as always. Ambassador Hana, I'm ready to begin my assignment. I've prepared a comprehensive training program for your defense forces. We'll start with basic tactics and move to advanced strategic planning. This is going to be fun. Fun was not the word Hana would have chosen, but she appreciated Sue's enthusiasm. At least one human seemed to enjoy something other than combat efficiency. Quan extended his hand, another human gesture Hana had learned. She took it, feeling the strength in his grip. We're departing in 6 hours, Quan said. The Relentless is needed elsewhere. But Sue will remain as our liaison. If you need help, she can contact us. We'll come. Will you always come? Hana asked. If we call again? If the threat is real and the need is genuine, yes, Quan replied. We made a promise to ourselves 400 years ago. No one will suffer alone because no one came when they called. We keep our promises. The shuttle ride back to Valanus Prime was quiet. Hana watched the Relentless growing smaller in the distance. The human ship had saved her civilization, but she still did not fully understand the humans themselves. Perhaps that was intentional. Perhaps remaining slightly mysterious was part of their strategy. Back on the surface, Hana prepared her final report for the council. She wrote late into the night, trying to capture everything she had learned. The words came slowly, each one carefully chosen. She wrote about the Dravek and their elimination. She wrote about human military capabilities and their cold efficiency. She wrote about the technology transfer and the training program Sue would implement. But mostly she wrote about what the humans represented. We called for angels, she wrote. We imagined saviors who would descend from the heavens with gentle hands and kind words. We imagined protectors who would defend us without demanding anything in return. We imagined the universe as we wanted it to be, not as it actually is. The humans showed us our mistake. Angels are myths created by people who want to believe the universe is fundamentally good. The humans are the reality. They are survivors who clawed their way up from the edge of extinction. They are warriors who learned that mercy is a luxury only the strong can afford. They are the solution to problems that cannot be negotiated or reasoned with. They are not evil. They are not cruel for the sake of cruelty. They are simply what their world made them. Earth tried to kill them for millions of years, and they survived by becoming unkillable. The galaxy abandoned them when they needed help, and they survived by becoming self-sufficient. Other species threatened them, and they survived by becoming the biggest threat. We are alive because of them. 4,000 humans died to save billions of Villanis. They did not hesitate.